It's a pleasure to be here. When we were asked to come up here and sit in these comfortable chairs and have a discussion amongst ourselves that ultimately will include you at the Q&A part of this, about the topic of gaining an edge in the marketplace, which is a very complicated topic, we talked amongst ourselves and sort of merged onto one thing that best defines this topic. And that is the issue of differentiation. You know, each of you are here to represent your respective companies, and there's a wide range of companies here represented today, and the industry. Many of the companies in our industry are actually small. They're not the size of the companies that are represented here on the stage. Many of them are privately held, employee-owned, and many by design are actually specialized or differentiated in their own way, or else they wouldn't have the license to exist. But yet, we are seeing the industry become a lot tougher to exist in, and differentiation is becoming more and more difficult for all companies, especially as the small companies sort of grow into larger companies. And we see this because you'll hear a lot about talent and people, and the industry is home to some of the smartest, most talented, most passionate people in our society. And those people move around, and they take a lot of their thoughts and ideas with them. Also, you're going to find that as those people move around, they're also joining firms of different specialties and capabilities, and they gain skills and knowledge, and then they in turn keep sharing that. The other part of this is we like to share as professionals. We're here in this conference, and you all have been attending some sessions, and you'll be attending more sessions, and what are you doing? You're sharing. You're talking about what works and what doesn't, and how to best advance the industry. We're unlike many other industries with respect to this particular character trait. We actually want our colleagues and our peers and our competitors to elevate the profession, and we will share. And with that, we just raise the bar again on differentiation. And then one other dynamic that has been occurring in our industry over the past decade in particular is the acceleration of industry consolidation, driven by lots of things. You know, there's cheap money out there. There's the emergence of the larger firms that have better access to capital, and they're able to even get larger. And the merging of strategies through M&A, again, making it more complicated for differentiation. So we're going to talk about differentiation, which is, again, a very deep topic. We're going to approach it from the standpoint of our respective companies, and then we're going to try to elevate the discussion a little bit so we can talk about how it impacts everybody. And then hopefully we can get you to think about some of thoughts or questions that you may have for us at the end of the panel. So I'm going to start with Joachim. And you know, the Arcadis experience is quite unique, and it's a fantastic company. If you can talk to us a little bit about how you all look at differentiation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe before I even get into that, let's have a quick look at the history of corporate strategy. In the 1960s, there was Bruce Henderson, the founder of a consulting firm, management consulting firm that he used to compete with, who said, there's only one way to compete. You gain a relative market share against your competitors, and you have lower cost than all of them. So he said, one way to compete, cost, right? Then in the 1980s, I think it was 1980, came Michael Porter from the Harvard Business School, who introduced differentiation as a second way of gaining a competitive advantage. And that's essentially where corporate strategy still sits today, right? You either compete on cost or you compete on differentiation. And given a choice between the two, I pick differentiation any day, right? So how do we do this at Arcadis? We essentially see three areas of differentiation: people, innovation, and the way we engage with our clients. So let me talk about people first, because I feel that it is by far our most important differentiator, and frankly also the most sustainable one. I hope you all agree that having motivated, energized, enthusiastic people who are looking forward to coming to work every day makes all the difference in the world. So how do we make that happen at Arcadis? What it is all about? It's about passion, it's about values, and it is about creating a great place to work. Let me start with passion. There's something unique about Arcadis. We have a passion statement. Our passion is to improve the quality of life. That passion statement is frankly what brought me to Arcadis, and it is that passion statement that brought many of our people to Arcadis. Our passion statement unites us. And improving the quality of life, that's not just empty words for us. That's something we truly believe in. That's something we try to bring to life every single day. That's something we talk extensively about, how we make it happen. And we really also foster this well beyond the day-to-day work that we do and all the community engagement that we have across our firm. We also have, we call it a pro bono contest, where we invite our employees to propose projects that improve the quality of life, and we invest in those projects. And our people are very energized by this, and the clients feel it as well. It's also about values. We introduced people first as a value, and we think about people first in everything we do. And our people recognize this. And we see it reflected in our key metrics. Our voluntary turnover is at a record low. It's below 10%, well below, I think, where the industry average is. For those of you who know Glassdoor, our Glassdoor ratings have increased quite significantly. Our engagement scores have increased. And that obviously makes a big difference. We also have integrity as a value, and integrity for us is a lot more than complying with the law. Integrity for us is about putting client interests first, right? It is about not drowning clients in change orders. It is about not employing bait and switch tactics. It's about being open and transparent on everything we do with our clients. And that makes a big difference as well. And for that reason, we also introduced client success as a value. In the past, we had client focus, but when I was looking at that, I said, every company probably claims to be client focused, right? They have to be client focused to make money. Client success, for me, stands for more. It means we are fully vested in the success of our clients. We also have collaboration as a value, which we also interpret more broadly. It's not just about internal collaboration that we do very well across the entire globe, but it's also collaboration with partners, and I think most importantly, collaboration with our clients in a sort of co-creation fashion makes a big difference to our clients. And then we also have sustainability as a value, which, as you can imagine, resonates very well with our people and our clients as well. So values can be very, very powerful if you believe in that. I very often start conversations with our clients on the topic of values, and sometimes I discuss how our values relate to their values, and those are typically very powerful conversations. And then it's also about creating a great place to work. Shortly after I joined Arcadis, about 3.5 years ago, I said I want to make Arcadis the best place to work in the industry. And this is a firm goal of mine, and we've made a lot of progress on this front, and we will continue on that journey to make really Arcadis the best place to work. And it has a lot of different dimensions. Right? It's about flexible work hours, it's about flexible workspaces, We are totally fine if our people want to work from home. We have probably close to 1,000 remote workers. It's also about people development. We have a plethora of people development programs. We abolished the dreaded performance ratings, and we replaced annual performance evaluations with a feedback culture and much more frequent touch points. We try to, despite the fact that we are a large firm, we try to keep bureaucracy as low as possible and really encourage our people to act as entrepreneurs. We have good benefits, and this all comes together, and people tell us they enjoy working at Arcadis, and our clients feel it, and that makes a big difference. We're also blessed to have the Lowen-Clan Foundation. The Lowen-Clan Foundation holds 20%, almost 20% of our shares, and they invest the dividends they receive back into our people by sponsoring some really great people development programs. So 2 weeks ago, we assembled 100 of our global shapers from all across the world in Boston, and those are people who have just been with us for 1 or 2 years, right? They come together, they network, they work on important problems, and it makes a huge difference for us. A great place to work for us is also a little bit about diversity and inclusion. And again, that we also interpret more broadly than many others. Diversity for us is also about bringing people to the table with a different educational background, with a different cultural background. And whenever we bring those people to the table of our client conversations, typically very good things happen, and we differentiate ourselves very effectively with our clients. So I talked about people first. People, that's obviously all about culture as well. And Peter Drucker once said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And I firmly believe in that. The second area of differentiation for us is innovation. We've always been a very innovative company. I would say innovation has always been in the DNA of Arcadis, and I feel that in a world of increasing commoditization, innovation and agility becomes more critical than ever. Yeah. In the digital space, because digital undoubtedly will transform our industry, as well as in the non-digital space. So we take innovation very seriously. We have innovation formally reflected in our organizational structure. We call it TKI, Technical Knowledge and Innovation, but we do a lot of other things. Again, from my perspective, it's about creating an innovation culture. We have a program that we call Quick Launch, which is essentially our crowdsourcing mechanism internally to capture innovative ideas from all of our people. And people love it, they embrace it. We literally got hundreds of ideas already through Quick Start, right? From people throughout all parts of the organization, corporate functions, all the various business lines, all the various geographies, all the various grade levels. People just love being recognized for innovative ideas, and we very much foster that. We are also teaming with Techstars, just to give you another example. Techstars is a startup accelerator, and we are working with them and are essentially inviting entrepreneurs and startups to work together with us on pioneering technologies that will revolutionize the way we live, work, and travel today and in decades to come. We call it Shaping the City of 2030. Right? So we as Arcadis want to be on the forefront of innovation. We want to bring the most creative, the brightest ideas to our clients to ultimately improve the quality of life for all of us. And then thirdly, I've talked now about people and innovation. The third thing that I see as a differentiator is how we engage with our clients. I think for too long, our industry has been a little bit of an order taker. Yeah. And I don't want to be an order taker, right? I want to be a strategic thought partner to our clients. I want to shape the future together with our clients. When I was a partner in management consulting, my most important metric for medium-term success was whether my client would be promoted to CEO. Why is that a good indication? It tells you you're working with the right client, right? You are working on a strategic topic, and you're helping your client succeed. So at Arcadis, I don't have the aspiration that all of our clients now all of a sudden become CEOs. That's not going to happen. But nonetheless, I want to make sure we work with the right clients, right? I want to make sure we advise them on strategic topics. We shape the future with them. And I want to make sure we make their lives easier and we help them shine. And I think that's a very distinct differentiator. So to summarize 3 areas of differentiation for us: people, innovation, and the way we engage with our clients. And I feel really good where we are. We've gone through a transformation over the last 3 years. We made tremendous progress. All of our metrics have improved very significantly. I'm very, very happy about it. I'm very, very happy about the trajectory that we are on, and I'm very much looking forward to a bright future. And I think the 3 areas of differentiation, people, innovation, and the way we engage clients, will really help us create that bright future.
Thank you, Joachim. Joe, how does Wood look at?
So first of all, I think an acknowledgement that this topic, differentiation, gaining competitive edge, is really important in spite of right now what's an upmarket. And I think the cynics in our firm, I think in all of our firms, many of you might feel and say, well, there's a lot of work on the street right now. My bigger problems are the talent war. My bigger problems are project execution, project delivery. Those are issues. Those are issues that whether you're a bigger firm or a smaller firm, we're all facing. But we're also driving this mindset of mentality that we have to understand what our differentiators are and what our competitive advantages are across the entire organization. So that starts at the top level of the organization overall on a global basis, the markets we play in, what we do as an overall business. But it has to translate down to the most meaningful levels of the organization as well. And in many cases, that's local offices, local provision of services, and things that are done right in front of the customer, really critically evaluating what's your value proposition. What's your value proposition as a business, as a service line, and importantly, what's your value proposition on a particular project. So we're trying to drive that mindset throughout the organization, and we have to really clearly articulate what our value that we're providing for our clients. Joachim spoke a little bit about clients, and similarly, we're trying to shift our viewpoint from looking at being a project-centric company. We do projects. This is what we do, the 4 boxes of what our capabilities are, and instead shift that to what value we bring to the customer. What solution are they looking for? What does that solution look like now? What will that solution look like in the future? Within Wood, because of the diverse capability we've got, we have a unique opportunity to bring a lot of what we call synergies to our clients, taking different parts of our businesses and bringing that together. Another paradigm or another way to look at that is silos, breaking down silos. Delivering without being biased that this is the way we've always done it, that is done over in that group over there, we don't have that capability in this office, go to that other department. Those are bad answers for our customers, and they're really bad answers for us internally as a business, because we find some of our most creative solutions for customers is when we break the silos. And silos exist in our firm at 55,000, 60,000 people. They exist in your firm if you have 10 people. I guarantee it. There's too many silos in how we deliver in this industry compared to other businesses that I think are restricting and limiting our ability to deliver. So we talk a lot about synergies. We talk a lot about teaming. We certainly have domain knowledge in lots of things. You all have domain knowledge in the technical capabilities that reside in your companies, but you don't know everything. And we challenge our people to understand what you do and don't know, and who might be smarter, who might be better, who might be leaner, who might have different domain knowledge to bring together. And we have to be creative, and we now actively look to the universities as a great source through their work in research and development as being part of what we might be able to bring together in domain knowledge. We look at many firms that are more nimble, more agile, smaller than us, that might have a great understanding or a great technical capability that we can add to the team to provide better value and better delivery in the end for the customer. We also talk about flexibility. The way in which we deliver to customers is not the same anymore. It's not traditional level of effort, person-hour based. understanding what the customer wants mandates, I think, a greater level of flexibility in us. In some cases, that's going to be a customer that has a major project development where, in the end, building a digital twin with an external partner is the solution they're looking for. And it's one of the things that we're involved in. Another customer simply might want staff augmentation services. Maybe they've had some turnover. Maybe they're changing their business model. Maybe they're strapped for resources. And by listening, by asking, by being flexible and viewing what we are as a solutions provider, maybe it's as simple as providing some staff augmentation resources. Maybe it's bridging until they're able to bring staff on board. Those are some of the thoughts that we're wrestling with and some of the themes that we're seeing as we look to try to tackle competitive advantage and differentiation.
Yeah, I think you're going to find, as you all think about your own companies, that those will probably rank in your top same general topics. Golder's view of differentiation is again very similar, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of what Joachim and Joe have said. But we do have a slightly different setup than most. Golder belongs to a shrinking population of employee-owned companies that are of scale. All you have to do is just read the, follow up on M&A, and you'll see that, one after the other, employee-owned companies of scale are being acquired or changing their ownership model. The most recent of which, of course, is the Jacobs acquisition of CH2M. Before that, MWH acquired by Stantec, and there's just a long list of firms that have gone through this. And but Golder has managed to stick it out. We've been around for almost 60 years, and we've believed in the ownership model and the employee ownership model since the inception of the firm. So the way we look at differentiation, really starting from ownership, again, all addressing the talent and trying to create an environment, a differentiated environment for our people. We have relied very heavily on ownership. It's worked well for us. And the way we look at it in very simple terms is the difference between participation and commitment. I use this joke all the time about a ham and eggs breakfast. In a ham and eggs breakfast, the chicken participated, but the pig is committed. And so we encourage people to be pigs. But you guys are a tough crowd. I sympathized with John a little bit earlier. So we really took the ownership model into sort of a partnership framework, even though legally we're not set up as a partnership. There's a legal structure around that, but we behave as one, where our company is 100% owned by employees, but 80% of the company is owned by our principals and associates, and they represent roughly about 15% of our population, and the remaining 20% are owned by everybody else when they choose to acquire and when we choose to let them acquire shares. And what we tried to do, we implemented a model that's called Partnerled or P-led model. And in that model, again, we are a global company. And remember, scale. We've got 6,500 plus people worldwide, people on 6 continents. And how do you leverage the strength of a global platform, but work with a partner model and not find yourself in a siloed or compartmentalized environment? So you have to work a little harder as the company gets bigger in these types of models. But we rely very heavily on giving a lot of autonomy and a lot of flexibility for our partners to make the right decisions every day, and then muster up the strength as a global enterprise when we need to help out our global clients. The other area that goes hand in hand with all this is we've chosen to be specialized as a company. We know as you get bigger, it becomes very attractive to add more services and to try to ultimately sort of head in that direction where you want to be full service to your clients. We recognized early on that field is going to be quite crowded, and you can see it populated more and more with the much larger companies. We feel that if you just focus on those areas that you can differentiate yourself technically through specialization and technical excellence, just get really good at it, then there's a niche there for us to work with. Now, it doesn't mean you can't expand into more services, but we've chosen to stay sort of in that highly specialized areas that we choose to participate in, and we want to be relevant in whatever we choose to do or be. Technical excellence and innovation, which you've heard discussed here today, is becoming critically important for everybody. Whether you're a firm that offers full service or specialized, you need to be looking always at the future and how you can continue to innovate, or unless you just want to hang around and wait for something to become the norm to adopt it, and at that point you have some risks. So we've invested in an innovation fund, which we launched actually this year for the first time in January, and it has been met with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm, especially from our younger generation, of folks, and it's generated some wonderful ideas and opportunities for us to advance. And the idea behind it is, we come up with clever solutions all the time for clients. We oftentimes, companies wait for the project and then try to get sort of innovative around it, but we want to be several steps ahead of that. We want to be thinking about those issues that our clients are facing, not only today, but in the future. And that speaks to what you heard Joe and Joachim talk about when on the client side of this, is that we want to be a partner to that client. We certainly want to be thought leaders and not just take orders, but anticipating our clients' needs and thinking about ways to be ahead of that is critically important. So that's how we look at it at Golder. But I'm going to come back to my colleagues here and just elaborate a little bit about the difference between project-centric and client-centric, because our industry, admittedly, has its roots in project centricity, and we love to solve problems. That's how we're wired. So Joe, tell me a little bit more about how do you actually move a culture of a company from a project centricity to the client centricity?
So again, our view, and what I was talking about earlier in terms of project centric versus client centric, is project centric is what we do, and we love to talk about what we do. ACEC has national awards, ENR has awards for projects. Do any of those organizations have awards for client relationships? Should we have awards for client relationships instead of projects? I would offer that. I think that's where our business needs to go.
Yeah.
So, one tactical step toward building more of a client-centric type organization is account management, having account management programs. That sounds like basic blocking and tackling. It sounds mundane, but it's something that motivates your staff, your junior people. When they can develop deep relationships, sustained relationships with the customers, understanding the customer's future needs as they evolve, that's a highly motivating step for them in their development. So we've taken the action of having not only an account management program, but grooming more and more junior people to get out with the customers, with the principals, with the senior people, with the senior staff, so they can be part of that relationship.
Joachim?
I feel we have traditionally been a relatively client-focused organization, had the major building blocks in place for quite some time. Account management, we have you talked about awards, Joe, we have a client success award as well. I think today it's more than just being client-centric. I had a couple of instances where clients pulled out their smartphones, right? And one said, Amazon gives me this great experience, right? The other individual said, I can control all the lights and the air conditioning in my house from my cell phone here. I kind of have a similar experience with you, right? I think that's ultimately where the future lies, creating a somewhat more distinctive client experience as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And it's important to really start with really the junior people coming into the business and introducing them to that thought process as you're obviously training them and developing them to handle the very technical issues. It's very important to also bring that into the training. That's what we try to do as well. We talk about technology as part of looking at innovation, but just things that are just going to happen to us as well on technology. And we've seen technology really have a profound impact on the industry, especially again going back just to the past decade. Look how the tools have been made available to us. We, as part of our innovation program and looking at where we want to invest at Golder, we looked at different opportunities, for example, around using drones, which is very commonly used now in many industries, but using drones, for example, to sample. We are involved in Golder at half the mine sites in the world. We're quite engaged in mining, and there are some areas where it's very difficult, very complicated to send people, and we were able to come up with an innovative way to use existing technology, but tailor it for the purpose of sampling, and we're able to save some money for our clients, and ultimately we feel it's going to make us more competitive. That's just an example for us. Joe, your thoughts on technology?
Yeah, I shared with you guys earlier my paradigm around technology and innovation in our business. It starts with, first, technology required. In the room, how many people are still billing CAD hours to their customers versus 20 years ago?
Not very many.
Not very many, right? That became required just as an entry ticket to continue working. The next level to me is what I know is a buzzword for all of us, technology enabled, right? I can look at our strategy, we've got technology enabled, it's all over the airwaves in terms of what we want to do. But I still think there's limitations to saying you're being technology enabled or you are technology enabled, because simply what that's making you do or helping you do is be more efficient and helping your employees be more efficient in delivering to the customer.
Yeah.
So that's just better, faster, cheaper. There's no differentiation in being technology enabled. It's really where we get, and I think Joachim was headed in this direction in your comments about this customer experience. It's really at that level where we're using technology to bring value, where we're using sensors proactively to communicate room temperature. We have a business, a weather business inside of our wood organization, and one of the technology offerings we have is to place sensors in roadways. And we do this extensively in Canada, and it helps our customers that run public works departments understand the ambient air conditions and therefore deploy road crews, salting crews, and plowing crews at the optimal time at which to go out and spread the road salt in such a way that it's safe for vehicle traffic, but not wasteful in terms of the commodity of road salt and road chemicals. Similarly, deploying the plowing crews at the right time.
Yeah.
So that happens to be one application where use of sensors, use of technology can be done not just for purposes of enabling folks in our office, but bringing solution to the customer, helping translate, well, what's the value there? The value is safer roads. The value is there less chemicals,
right,
adequate and appropriate time for deployment of public works folks, and therefore saving money. And that packaging that and translating that way, I think our business, our industry has to get better when we talk about technology.
And the question is, when do you start thinking about it? You know, that's the idea. So we did have some discussions about strategic planning. Do you wait for these things to happen to you, and do you react to it when you see your competitors or your clients basically demanding this? When do you put differentiation in your strategy? We talked a little about strategy beforehand, and I want you to be thinking about this for your Q&A. What is an effective length of time when you look at strategic planning? You know, you hear different thoughts in the industry about 3 years, is it 5 years? I'm talking about 10, 20 years out. You say, well, who can see that far? What kind of a plan can you put, even without a date to it, but just somewhere in a distant future? And that's something we looked at Golder. We came to terms with this when I joined the company 3.5 years ago, when the company had a bit of a crisis. It was a bit of an identity crisis about where we're headed with all this. And one of the important decisions we had to make is step back and say, how are we going to be relevant? How are we going to be differentiated into the future in a sustainable way? You can take your best guess at this, but that's when you start thinking about how you want to position yourself in the very distant future about differentiation, and then how you translate that to actionable items in those 3 or 5 year plans. So Joachim, just some thoughts about how you put your long-term plans together.
Well, look, we have different time horizons. The next year, 2019, obviously a high level of detail. Right. We of course have a 3-year strategic plan as well, still sort of fairly clear. And then we have a vision 2030, right? Where we look at all the various mega trends and all the various things that are happening around the world and trying to figure out how is that going to shape how people live and work and travel in 2030, right? 12 years, 12 years away. And it's not easy, but we've developed our own vision for that. And it's a vision that frankly makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
And you keep a connection between that vision and your short and intermediate.
You
have to
try to keep you try to keep a connection, but you also try to be out there and think very innovatively about alternative business models at the end of the day, right? And when you do that, look, people get somewhat uncomfortable. But from my perspective, that's the purpose, right? Of pushing people into the zone where they are not comfortable anymore. But as I said before, and maybe one thing to add, for me it's not only about strategy, for me it's also about culture, because if you have a great culture, if you have energized and motivated people, you can be very agile and very quickly respond to a changing environment, right? And as you sort of said beforehand, there's so much information transparency today that it's very difficult to protect intellectual capital for a long period of time. So I think what sort of replaces the protection of intellectual capital in my mind is sort of really becoming an agile organization, right? Being very nimble and being able to respond very, very quickly to changing forces in the environment.
I mean, Joe, you know, Wood is a company that has a very strong brand in oil and gas, and for anyone who's involved in this field, they have to be looking out into the future. I remember a quote from from a prominent government official in an oil-rich country, who says that when talking about oil and oil reserves and how long can this go on, and he said, the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. So your thoughts?
Yeah, Joachim, I really like a lot of your thoughts on the agile people and your people being the source of some really good information about where the business is going. I mean, I know that we all do our retreats and we have our business meetings and 3-year plans and all that, and those are necessary ingredients for good governance of the business, unquestionably. But I like your theme on how bubbling that up from really good people and having them be nimble and agile is really, really important. To pick up on Hisham's challenge, we are a company that about 50 to 55% of our business is oil and gas related. So a key long-range theme, in addition to a 3-year strategic theme for us, is what we call the energy transition. In Europe, it would be called decarbonization trend. And we are absolutely, passionately looking beyond 3 years to the 2030s. We're asking our people in different countries throughout the world, tell us what you think that's going to mean. We may not be perfect in what that ultimate endpoint is, but we know that renewables is going to become increasingly important. We know that there'll still be significant dependencies in countries on fossil fuels. Well, how does that reconcile? How is that maybe going to be changed by regulations or global trends, actions in the sustainability resiliency world by global leaders and political leaders? Those are important thoughts to have, and while I just gave you that paradigm as it relates to wood in the context of oil and gas, I'd also say we're doing the same kind of thinking in regards to the future of global infrastructure, which is another important market for us. So we have our 3-year strategies and plans for what we're doing tactically and what we're going to invest in, but we also have our vision of where could smart cities go? Where could infrastructure go? How are we going to play in that? And knowing a lot of the makeup of this group with small firms, medium firms, and large firms, that's a very pertinent topic. So go beyond just the thinking of how is alternate delivery model legislation going to affect me next year if they pass this in my state, and think more broadly to where is the challenges with infrastructure development in the future. This funding issue, there's a reason alternate delivery models have come up. Where's that funding issue going to rest 10 years from now, 15 years from now, in the markets that you're in now with the clients you're in now? That, I think, is a much more refreshing, healthy, long-term strategic discussion than just being wedded by a 3-year plan. And again, I'll echo both what Joachim and Hisham have said. Use the talent in your teams to extract that. Use those folks to bring that forward.
Thank you, Joe. We'll pause now and we'll go to Q&A.
Okay, great. Thank you, gentlemen. We have about, I think, 5 minutes for Q&A, so we're going to try to move through this quickly. I know there will be a lot of questions for our panelists, so why don't we take some questions from the audience? We have folks walking around with microphones. My friend M has a question.
You know, I promised Hisham, if he raises his hand, I will ask him a question.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's very touching for all firms of all sizes. You talk about people, you talk about agility, you talk about investing in them. What about the disruption that's anticipated? Because a lot of things you talk about being agile, a lot of things you talk about is what we've been doing for the last 10, 20, 30 years. So one of the booths I walked by yesterday had P4 hire, the Uberization for engineering services. So what do you at your level think about 2030? You see the industry as is, just with less offices and less urbanization, or a total transformation for business model?
Yeah, I think the topic of flexibility and being able to tailor your work environment for the changing needs and demands of our people over time, and being able to anticipate that is going to be incredibly important. I think already, I'm definitely in Golder, but I've seen this in a lot of our peer companies. The concept of office space has been changing radically. It used to be when I first started in this business, 30 years ago, everybody wanted an office, right? You wanted your own walls, and then I've seen that over the years go to more of a shared concept. And now offices, many companies are using the offices as a gathering place for teams, but not in that sense that not in that earlier design. And that requires a shift, again, in the way the company operates, the way we use technology to connect people effectively, to do that. So I think, and again, one basic fact, real estate costs to an average E&C company is roughly around 5% of net revenue. That's just some statistics. But when you walk into a typical engineering or consulting firm, at any given time, if that firm is involved in sort of a broad range of, engineering, design, sciences, environment, and so on, it's not uncommon to see half the offices empty. So imagine that, if our margins in the industry are, they're not spectacular, they're 10%, on average, or even less, imagine being able, and that's on net revenue, imagine being able to save that and then maybe redeploying some of that saving towards innovation or your people or other things. So Joachim, I know your company's been quite progressive in this area.
Yeah, we introduced activity-based working about 3 years ago, and that means obviously open workspace, and we encountered a lot of resistance initially. But right now, people have embraced it. We've saved a lot of money, right? It's really unbelievable how much money we have saved on the real estate front by consolidating some of our footprint. Not to the extreme, because many of our clients want us to have offices close to them. But obviously, if you move to an open work environment, you need a lot less space. And when I sort of introduced this concept to the organization, I in fact did not put the cost savings into the foreground, but I said that an open work environment also helps us become much more collaborative. Because what I had observed previously was that people locked themselves up in the offices, right, and wouldn't come out the entire day.
Yeah.
So we actually conducted a survey, and our people actually confirmed that.
Yeah.
It is much more collaborative. They are complaining a little bit about noise and distraction, right? That's the downside, but overall our office transformation has been very well received.
Another part of your question is around flexibility and the fact that some companies are popping up now that are offering engineering consultants for hire on a project basis where people are on contract. These are almost like virtual companies with no committed permanent staff. And that's a phenomenon that's been around for a long time. It's becoming more and more visible these days. In the US in particular, you're starting to see that. But other parts of the world that we operate in, we see our employees choosing to become contractors than full-time employees for many different legal reasons, and opportunities for tax and what have you. So I think, again, we have to anticipate and we have to plan.
And we have to be very agile because, to your question, I think technology undoubtedly has the potential to replace a lot of the work that we are doing today, right? And we have sort of discussed this in our leadership team, and I think the conclusion was technology could replace 30, 40, maybe 50% of what we are doing today. But at the same time, technology also creates new opportunities, right? It doesn't mean that we need half as many people. If we have a strong culture and an agile organization, we need to look at technology as an opportunity rather than a threat.
Yeah. Okay, so we have actually run out of time, but I think I want to give one more opportunity for a question if we have anyone out on the floor that has a burning question. There's one way in the back. We'll take that and we'll muscle through it really quickly and then wrap up.
So, Joachim, I heard you speak a lot about client experience and client engagement as a differentiator for your firm. A lot of resources like Gartner show 92% of Fortune 500 organizations have a formalized client experience management program, yet Hinge shows 1% of professional services firms have one. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on the lag in this industry for a formalized client experience management program and what you've seen the benefits of implementing that yourself in your firm are.
Look, I think it ultimately goes back to what Joe said beforehand, right? Historically, we are an industry that was very project focused and maybe not sufficiently client development focused. We are just going through a process right now of redefining the client experience that we want to create. So I don't have the final answer. For us, it's really work in progress. But as I said beforehand, we want to engage differently with our clients. We want to make their lives easier. We ultimately want them to shine as well, right? It goes back to what I said about my previous career in management consulting. In an ideal world, I would like to make every single one of our clients a CEO.
Yeah, but let's not forget that the average firm out here, they're smaller companies owned by people that are very connected to their clients. And it may not be incredibly formal, but there is constant connection to clients. We talk about elevating the experience to client centricity, but we've never been disconnected to our clients. We've always been very connected.
Yeah, and especially in the context of smaller firms, what I very often hear when I talk with firms, but also when I talk with clients, is that small firms can really differentiate themselves by being very, very responsive.
And Joe, you've been pretty vocal about this issue in the past.
Right. Well, I think this industry has an issue with being protective at the individual level about their clients. To the degree you don't see, I don't think, in management consulting and the law firms and other professional services. For whatever reason, I think this industry has been more reluctant with their senior principals and key senior people, including small companies. My experience of working with small companies, in building a wall around, that's my client, that's what I do. And we're trying to break that paradigm through incentives, through the junior people, introducing junior people, because we find them much more open to being participative in pulling in different ideas and going after the client experience at a different discussion level. Again, translating from that, what we do, to what value can we bring to you, customer. And I think there's a lot of value.
My client versus our client.
Exactly.
Well, that's a great way to wrap up. So we talked a lot about culture, and we talked about elevating the relationship with the client. We talked a little bit about commoditization of engineering. You all really did an excellent job covering the gamut in a short period of time that was provided, so I want to thank you very much.